Welcome to the Unshackled Life Podcast. Real talk about faith, freedom, and following Jesus. I'm Dalen Woodard, and I'm glad you're here. Whether you've been walking with Jesus for years or you're just trying to figure out what's real in a noisy world, this space is for honest conversation, raw reflection, and truth that sets us free. Let's get into today's episode. Today is the second week of Advent, the beginning of it, the second Sunday of Advent, and you may have noticed that I only lit one candle. I'll light the second one here in a minute, but I wanted to do the first one again as I spoke so that we could remember that hope is still burning. It's not we're letting go of hope and holding on to peace, which is our second candle. It's an addition. And that can be hard to remember sometimes. It can be hard to hold on to our hope and our peace. 84 years ago today, as many were preparing to light the Advent candle of peace, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And less than 3 weeks before Christmas, peace on earth was impossible to imagine. As America was dragged into a worldwide war that was already going. And if you look at the 4 years that it took to bring peace again, you'll see that there wasn't peace hardly anywhere until then. There was a lot of tragedy, a lot of chaos, and a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. And there were many instances of courage, both at home and abroad, from a lot of different people. And it's often been said that courage is not the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of fear. And I agree with that. And I agree that courage is not fear's opposite. Fear's opposite is peace. It's not courage. It's peace that prevents panic. There's a lot of chaos, a lot of enemies, a lot of things going on that make us think there's not any peace. And I can imagine that 84 years ago there were a lot of people going, "What are you doing talking about peace?" But there's a peace that's available whatever war you're facing, whatever battle you're going through. Because the Prince of Peace has come. He said, "My peace I give to you." That peace is what naturally flows from the hope that we've been given. There are a lot of enemies that need to be defeated, and he defeats them on the cross. He went to the cross, and we talk about, and Scripture talks about, he defeats sin and death, and the enemy has been defeated. So all the spiritual powers and principalities that would set themselves against God, defeated. It is done. It is finished. But there's another aspect of the defeated enemy that we sometimes overlook because it's not put in those lists, although it's made clear in context throughout the entire Scripture. And that enemy was me, and that enemy was you. selfish, self-centered rebel inside us all that became an enemy of God the second we were old enough to stamp our foot and say, my will, not yours or anybody else's, be done. And I don't care if somebody else loses a little bit, or if they get hurt, or if I have to be unloving towards them to get what makes me feel good. I'm going to do it. At some point, we all do that in our hearts, in our minds, and in our actions. And we declare ourselves enemies of God. The easiest way to make peace with an enemy is to destroy the enemy. There'll never be a problem again if the enemy is destroyed. But God didn't do that. He made a way to destroy the enemy within us without destroying us. That's pretty amazing. He made a way for us to be able to surrender without being destroyed. And yet, the part in us that is a natural enemy of God dies on that cross with Jesus. So we have peace with our Creator. We are no longer enemies of God. We are His children who can, with confidence, meaning a lack of fear, come into the throne room of grace to find grace to help when we need it. When there is chaos, when we are overwhelmed, when people are treating us wrong, when the world is not doing what the world should do, and when our own hearts and our own minds are warring against us, because sometimes I'm my own worst enemy. We have peace in the chaos because we know that the war is over. The war is over. You don't have to fight God anymore. And you don't have to be afraid that He's going to squash you like a bug because you're His enemy. See, it's still tied to hope. That is our hope. But it's also our peace that surpasses all understanding. Except it makes perfect, logical sense. If you have peace with the one who is running everything, you can be at peace no matter what's going on. It only passes the understanding of those who have never tasted that peace. But because of the body that was broken for us and the blood that was spilt, everyone who hungers for that hope and that peace can come. And the war can be over. So today, I think it would be good to just remember the war is over because of what Jesus did. And if there's any little parts of ourselves that have been running around like marauders after the surrender, playing little terrorist, acting like the war's still on, surrender those things. And let that which will not bow be nailed to the cross with Jesus. because of what he did. We can come boldly without fear. No need to panic. Keep calm. Follow Christ. Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Unshackled Life podcast. If it encouraged, blessed, or challenged you, consider following the podcast and sharing it with someone you feel it might bless or help. Be blessed, and remember, when you fix your thoughts on God and build your thinking on the foundation of His truth, God fixes your thoughts.